Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesh. Okay, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, titled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. And we are on text 36 today. We'll cover the rest of the chapter, 36 through 46, I think. What I was thinking was I was just going to read some sections. We're not going to do everything. We would need like 5 days to do that or something like that. I just made some notes on the different sections that the verse has, and we'll just do that. It's hard. I needed a lot of mercy for this verse. Like it's my luck. Every time I do this, it's like ridiculously long purports. Okay. Um, Before we get into the verse, this is text 36, and we are in this section of the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, right? It started from text 33, 34, 35 we covered yesterday, and then today we're covering 36. And this is like the concluding verse of the Chatushloki of the Srimad Bhagavatam. What was the first three verses about? Does anybody remember? Yes? When you speak, if you, I know your name, there are few new people that I don't know. So when you speak, if you can say your names, that way I'll get to know you also. And I'm Srinatha Krishna Das.
Dang it. I'm blanking a little bit, but I remember one of them was Krishna saying to Brahma, all that appears to be disconnected from me, know that to be illusory, and know that to be Maya. And then I think the first verse was talking about how Krishna is basically God and the cause of all causes. And
first one was Krishna was everything, right? And then we went in detail about the purports about the eyes. It's amazing how many eyes were there in the purport. If somebody wants to say I, it gets really annoying. But with Krishna, it's really nice. In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, also Krishna says aham, 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 aham. I am this, I am that, I am that. But the word aham actually suits Krishna. So we went through, broadly speaking, in any system of knowledge, you have three things that you need to know. Right? One is called the Sambandha, one is called the Abhideya, and one is called the Prayojana. Right? So the Sambandha was the first verse that we discussed yesterday. That who is Krishna, who are we, what is our relationship? Right? We are the Krishna has multifarious energies, Krishna is the supreme, and we are. And then we didn't go through this verse, but we also went through the Prayojana, the goal. Sambandha means relationship. What's the relationship with Krishna? Relationship of everything with Krishna, and everything, we are part of everything. And then the Prayojana means the goal. What was the goal? Do you remember from yesterday? That's always a good answer. Hare Krishna, going back home, back to God, it's spiritual master. Always the right answers. But what Krishna was saying was, the goal is to see Krishna everywhere, within and without. That was text 36. And if you've read the purport, you would know how you can do it. You can do it only if you have love for Godhead. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena, Prabhupada quotes in that verse. So the Prayojana is Prema Bhakti, or pure love of Godhead. And this verse is going to tell us how we can achieve the Prema Bhakti, or love of Godhead. And this is called, the process is called what? Among Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana? Abhideya, right? So we've discussed Sambandha, we've discussed Prayojana, and this verse will tell us Abhideya. So we'll read the verse once, and then one from men and one from women can repeat for the lack of time. Etavadeva jijñāsam Etavadeva jijñāsam Chattattva jijñāsunātmana Anvaya vyatirekaabhyam Yatsyat sarvatra sarvada. Somebody want to chant? Etavadeva jijñāsam Tattva jijñāsunātmana Anvaya vyatirekaabhyam Yatsyat sarvatra sarvada. Matajis? Etavadeva jijñāsam Tattva jijñāsunātmana Anvaya vyatirekaabhyam Yat Sat Sarvatra Sarvada. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is the word for word translation. Etavat, up to this. Eva, certainly. Jignasyam is to be inquired. Tattva, the absolute truth. Jignasuna, by the student. Atmana, of the self. Anvaya, directly. Vyatirekabhyam, indirectly. Yat, whatever. Syat, it may be. Sarvatra, in all space and time. Sarvada, in all circumstances. Translation. A person who is searching after the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, most certainly search for it up to this. Is there a... yeah, must certainly. This is a print mistake. Must certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space and time, and both directly and indirectly. So, this is the end of inquiry, right? The previous verse we said the goal was what? Yeah, and which is translated as Prema Bhakti, right? Pure love of Godhead. That's basically the goal, right? Every day in the morning, every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. That's our desired success, right? And for us to achieve that, this is the end of inquiry. That this is the be all and end of all of any inquiry that you want. And you should inquire about this, what the verse says, in all circumstances, in all space and time, both directly and indirectly. I think this basically covers the entire gamut of inquiry on how you can inquire. Right? Okay, let's get into the purport. Let's do the first two paragraphs and then that sets it up for us and then we can start discussing. Somebody wants to read the first paragraph? Yes.
To unfold the mystery of Bhakti Yoga, as it is explained in the previous verse, is the ultimate stage of all inquiries, or the highest objective for the inquisitive. Everyone is searching after self-realization in different ways, by Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, by Dhyana Yoga, Raja Yoga, by Bhakti Yoga, etc. To engage in self-realization is the responsibility of every living entity developed in consciousness. One who is developed in consciousness certainly makes inquiries into the mystery of the self, of the cosmic situation, and of the problems of life in all spheres and fields, social, political, economic, cultural, religious, moral, etc., and in their different branches. But here the goal of all such inquiries is explained.
Yeah. So all of us are, whether we know it or not, are making inquiries all the time. And Prabhupada is saying these inquiries are generally based on social, political, economical, cultural, religious, moral, the problems that we might have. But the goal of all such inquiries, all of our inquiries should actually result in what? On how we can attain pure love of Godhead. That is the goal of all such inquiries. And that's what this verse says, that the search for this inquiry stops at this point. There is nothing beyond this. The ultimate search is the search for love of Godhead. Okay, let's continue.
The Vedanta Sutra philosophy begins with this inquiry about life, and Bhagavatam answers such inquiries up to this point, or the mystery of all inquiries. Lord Brahma wanted to be perfectly educated by the personality of Godhead, and here is the answer by the Lord, finished in 4 nutshell verses, from Aham Eva to this verse, Etavad Eva. This is the end of all self-realization processes. Men do not know that the ultimate goal of life is Vishnu, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, due to being bewildered by the glaring reflection in the darkness, and as such, everyone is entering into the darkest region of material existence. driven by the uncontrolled senses. The whole material existence has sprung up because of the sense gratification desires based principally on the sex desire. And the result is that in spite of all advancement of knowledge, the final goal of all the activities of the living entities is sense gratification. But here is the real goal of life, and everyone should know it. By inquiries put before a bona fide spiritual master, expert in the science of Bhakti Yoga, or from a living personality of Bhagavatam life.
Yeah, let's pause there. So everybody is making inquiries, right? But what are they making inquiries on? Yeah, sense gratification, or so many different types, ways in which we can gratify our senses. And why are we inquiring in such direction?
Because we
Why is our inquiries mostly for sense gratification? What does Prabhupada say?
because we have forgotten.
Yeah, how have we forgotten? Prabhupada specifically says, because due to being bewildered by the glaring reflection in the darkness, right? This illusion that the second verse of the Chatushloki that says, when we are completely disconnected from Krishna, that's what is illusion, right? So we are completely disconnected from Krishna, and that from that perspective, it's ignorance. We are acting in ignorance. We don't know what is good for us, and from that perspective, we think sense gratification is the best thing that can happen for me. I'm going to be really happy if I can satisfy my senses, right? So all our inquiries are based on how can I gratify my senses, okay? And we do not know nate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. That's basically what Prabhupada is paraphrasing here. That the ultimate goal of life is Vishnu, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. So when so when we actually come to this point and know that this is the goal of life, right? That surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or knowing about the Supreme, is the ultimate goal of life. How should our inquiries be directed at, Prabhupada says? Yeah. It's not that you go and start randomly looking for things. The best way to go about doing that inquiry is by surrendering to a spiritual master. And anybody remember how we have to approach a spiritual master? What's the way? Yeah, we go and inquire from the spiritual master. That's why we go to this spiritual master, right? Tad vijñātam sagurum evabi gacche. To actually know or inquire about the Supreme is why we have to actually go to the Supreme spiritual master. And the way to approach a spiritual master is to submissively approach him and render service unto him. This famous verse from the Gita, right? Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya. Prashna means to inquire. It is our we are given this privilege of inquiring from the spiritual master to get our answers for all our inquiries. But it has to be done with submission. We have to submit to the spiritual master. Okay, let's continue.
Everyone is engaged in various kinds of scriptural inquiries. By the Srimad Bhagavatam gives answer to all of the various students of self-realization. This ultimate objective of life is not to be searched out without great labor or perseverance. One who is imbued with such sincere inquiries must ask the bona fide spiritual master in the disciplic succession of Brahmaji. And that is the direction given here. Because the mystery was disclosed before Brahmaji by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the mystery of all such inquiries regarding self-realization must be put before such a spiritual master, who is directly the representative of the Lord. Acknowledged in that disciplic succession, such a bona fide spiritual master is able to clear up the whole thing by evidence from the revealed scriptures, both direct and indirect.
Yeah. So, what is the qualification of such a bona fide spiritual master? So disciplic succession. That's what Prabhupada is making here. And specifically, we are in this disciplic succession of Lord Brahma. Which is, how amazing is this? That Krishna directly spoke the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam in the nutshell verses to Lord Brahma. And we are in the direct disciplic succession of such an amazing personality. Right? Let's continue.
Although everyone is free to consult the revealed scriptures in this connection, one still requires the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, and that is the direction in this verse. The bona fide spiritual master is the most confidential representative of the Lord, and one must receive direction from the spiritual master in the same spirit that Brahmaji received it from the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. The bona fide spiritual master in that bona fide chain of disciplic succession never claims to be the Lord himself, although such a spiritual master is greater than the Lord, in the sense that he can deliver the Lord by his personally realized experience. By his personally realized experience. The Lord is not to be found simply by education or by good fertile brain, but surely he can be found by sincere student throughout the transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master.
Yeah. So this is the point that Srila Prabhupada is making, is all our inquiries have to be done by the transparent via media. What does that mean? Yeah? Yeah. If somebody else wants to answer.
So a transparent medium, it's used to kind of, I think, it refers to like when light goes through it. Anyways, basically, there's no filter. There's no thing that's altering. It's transparent.
Yeah.
And then it's the medium through which you're receiving something.
Yeah.
So it's a transparent medium.
The example I have is these spectacles that I wear. Without the spectacles, I cannot really see clearly. Some might say this spectacle is blocking my vision because it's right in front of my eyes. But it's a very transparent via media that actually helps me see things very clearly. Right? That is the spiritual master. And Prabhupada in this next paragraph, we're not going to read anymore. Probably I might read sections of it. But Prabhupada in the next paragraph gives example of what happens if you don't listen from a bona fide spiritual master. Before Prabhupada wrote the English version of the Bhagavad Gita, do you know how many versions of Bhagavad Gita was there in English? At least 200 versions, I think. At least 200 versions of Bhagavad Gita was translated into English. And yet, most or 99% of those translations didn't speak about Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the problem, right? That if we don't approach a bona fide spiritual master, we lose the, forest for the trees. In every single verse of the Gita, Krishna is spoken as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And yet, if you read any other translation apart from the Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada gave us, you wouldn't really figure that out so easily. So, that's why it is really important for us to approach this inquiry of the Absolute via a bona fide spiritual master who will represent things as it is, right? That's why Prabhupada named this. Look at the audacity of a person who can actually claim that what I am saying is as it is. How many of us can say it? I'm saying things as it is. He named his book, Bhagavad Gita, as it is, right? It's as Krishna said. So that's the point that Prabhupada is making, is that we have to start inquiring, and that inquiry should be through the transparent via media of a bona fide spiritual master. And such a spiritual master comes under the disciplic succession. And Prabhupada continues. Basically, the rest of the purport is he goes through every single verse by verse, right? A person who is searching after the absolute truth must certainly search for it up to this in all circumstances, in all space and time, both directly and indirectly. He's going to take us how we can directly search for this, how we can indirectly search for this, how we can search in all circumstances, in all space and all time. That's basically what the rest of the purport is. So directly, how do you think you can inquire directly? What's directly given to us? But where is it? How can you inquire about these questions directly? Yeah, directly from the scriptures, right? From the Bhagavad Gita, from Srimad Bhagavatam, you have access to this. All of us have access to this. When we approach this through the bona fide spiritual master, we get answers for this. And there are several verses that Prabhupada gives in quotation to how Krishna asks us to approach Krishna, and how Krishna talks about himself, about his nature. Right? Ishvara sarva bhutanam hrideshe arjuna tishtati. Krishna says, the Lord is situated in the hearts of all living beings. And as what? What is the feature of the Lord? That he is sitting in the hearts of all living beings? As the Paramatma, right? And he is controlling all of them in the material world under the agency of his external energy. That's basically our situation, right? And therefore, what does Krishna say? This is the 18th chapter. How many of you have read the Gita? Yes, most of you here. What's the concluding verse? In the 18th chapter, Krishna says, I've said everything I want to say, Arjuna. And then he says, Yatachasi tatakuru. Do whatever you would like to do, right? But does Krishna stop there? What does he say more? What does he say after that? Before that? Basically, Krishna says, I've said everything I want to say, and it's up to you, Arjuna, whether you want to take it or not. But then Krishna goes further and say, Arjuna, because you're very close to me, I'm going to reveal you one of the greatest secrets that I can reveal. Right? After saying everything, then there is some little bit more nectar Krishna wants to give Arjuna. And then the first thing that he says is, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Right? Always think of me. Always worship me. Pay obeisances to me. This is basically the first secret that Krishna is revealing. And the second secret is what Nanda Braja Prabhu was saying. Abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. That's the ultimate goal, right? So directly like this, we can approach the scriptures and know how to proceed through this inquiry of the Absolute, of how to achieve a real goal of love of Godhead. What do you think is the indirect way in which we can approach the Lord? This is a very difficult question because it's there in the purport. It took me some time for me to understand what Prabhupada is saying. Directly you go to the scriptures and perform bhakti, right? Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Krishna says. What's an indirect way of doing it? Yeah, probably going through the different steps, right? That Prabhupada mentioned the first, like karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and eventually you come to bhakti yoga. But Prabhupada also mentions another thing here, which is the varnashram system. So all of us are given certain duties that we perform, right? Through performance of duties, basically you go through these different steps, right? I'm performing my duty. Initially, I have no idea why I'm doing it. I'm doing it so that I want the money to enjoy, right? That's basically what it is. And I can do anything that I want. Such an activity is called what? It's completely no bounds, no restrictions. I can do anything that I want so that I can be happy by satisfying my senses. Do you know what such an activity is called? What the word for it is? It's not even fruitive. It's below fruitive. Fruitive means I want something, but I'll work within the framework that I'm given. I'm not going to break any of the rules within the framework. Yeah, it's kind of desperation, but this is called vikarma. Activities that are not good for us, that are really bad for us, that are only going to end up in sinful reactions. That's basically what it is. 99% of the people in the world, or 90%, do activities that are not good for them, that are not within the framework of the scriptures. So therefore, everything that we accumulate is sinful reactions, right? One thing about that is, yes, I want to satisfy my senses, but I'll do it in proper ways. I really want to get vegetables from the supermarket, but I'll pay. I won't steal. Right? That's fruitive, right? I want to satisfy my senses, but I'll do it in a proper way. So that's basically karma yoga, right? And then from there, you get to the platform of, why am I doing this? I'm trying to satisfy my senses, but it's actually not really helping me. We come to this point where it's only causing me misery. And Krishna says this very directly. If we take the direct approach, it's very clear to us. It says, Yahi samsparsha jabhoga dukkha yone evate, he says. The satisfaction that we think we get from the contact of the senses with the sense objects, he's saying is dukkha yone. It's only going to cause us misery. But anyway, we come after many lifetimes. This is not a 3-year project, right? I'm performing karma yoga over many lifetimes, and I come to this point of realization that, oh, this is not really helping me. It's only causing me misery. And then I actually ask, why am I doing what I'm doing? That's jnana. And eventually we come to the platform of bhakti. right? So that's the indirect way of approaching this question that we have. All right. So why do people not take up any of this process? There is a direct process, there is an indirect process. We spoke about the first activity, which is vikarma, right? That we don't care about any of the prescriptions that we're given. We do things however we want. Why do you think that's happening? Any ideas from the Gita? I'll give you a clue before I come to you. Krishna says 4 kinds of people who come to him and 4 kinds of people who don't come to him. Right? Our answer basically lies in why people don't come to this process of inquiry. So what does Krishna say? Why people don't come to him? Yeah, there are 4 kinds of people who Krishna says who don't approach him. Right? Although this method of inquiry is available for everybody, the scripture is available for everybody. Srimad Bhagavatam, about at least 250 years back, at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a great acharya in our disciplic succession. He's there on the altar, right? He was the father of the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's father. During his time, he wanted to get a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita is the biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he had to spend, I think, 2 years to get a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Probably more. Some people say it was 10 years or something. There was no copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita that he could find. Think about now. Vedabase.io. Like how many printed books do we have? Like millions of books we've distributed all over the world, right? We have so much access and yet people don't want to take this up. Why? Because Krishna says these are 4 categories of people who won't take it up. Namam dushkrutino muda prapadyante naradama maya paharita jnana ashuram bhavam ashrita. That these are the lowest type of human beings, Prabhupada says, who are covered, although they might be really educated, right? That they think they are the most educated people in the society. You can think of the PhDs and the scientists or whoever you think are the most educated people. He says, Maya paharita jnana. They have jnana, but that knowledge has been taken away by the illusory potency of the Lord. Because that's what they want, right? So this is why people don't take this process of direct inquiry or indirect inquiry. Alright, so that's one section that Prabhupada covers in the purport. So going ahead, he says, all of our inquiries are based on what he started with. What do we inquire for? In general, sense gratification. Why is it a problem if we inquire just for sense gratification? Why is it problematic if the inquiry is just for sense gratification? What's so difficult about it? Yeah, but what's the problem with not making spiritual advancement? Where? Yeah, we're stuck in this material world, right? This is essentially what sense gratification gives us. It puts us in this really horrible cycle of birth, death, old age, disease. Birth, death, old age, disease. We're constantly cycling through this, and we're cycling through this through 8,400,000 different varieties of bodies. Think about it. We're thinking, Prahlad Maharaj says, this is punah punah charvita charvananam. This is like chewing the chewed. You've chewed gum before, right? What happens the first minute of chewing the gum? It tastes really good, right? All the juice that's there in the gum is really tasty. But after the minute, there is no taste whatsoever in the gum. And yet, what do? We don't spit it out. How many of us spit out a gum after the first minute? Definitely not me. What do? We keep chewing and chewing and chewing. Why are we doing it? No, it's not just because. Yeah, you think, oh, there is just one more drop of that juice left. I'm going to get just that one more drop of juice, right? This is exactly our existence in this material world. We think we're going to be happy. Probably in the first 3 lifetimes, we realize, or probably the first lifetime, we might realize that there's basically no juice here in this material world, And yet, we're going after different types of sense gratificatory enjoyments, thinking, oh, I'm going to get that one drop. I'm going to chew a little bit more, and I'm going to get that juice. This is the problem, Prahlad Maharaj says. It's like chewing the chewed. And I've heard like really gross ways in which you can think about it. Some people take the gum out and stick it under a desk. And after some time, take that and chew it again. If people do this, this is basically our existence in this material world. We're trying to gratify our senses, and it's not taking us anywhere. It's only putting us in misery, and we're trying to chew it and chew it and chew it. And Krishna is so magnanimous that he's given us 8,400,000 different ways in which you can do it. You think you cannot do it, you think you've not satisfied in this particular type of body? Or take another type of body. You cannot fault Krishna for not giving us chances. 8,400,000 different types of bodies, and within each body you have so many different ways in which you think you can enjoy. Right? Within a human body, think of how many different ways in which we try to enjoy the senses. And like that, every single body has so many different avenues for sense gratification. But the problem with all of those endeavors is that it's going to put us in the cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age. And what happens when we're in the cycle of birth, death, disease? What's so bad about this? What's so bad about us being in the cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age? Why? How is it miserable? Yeah, the main thing is fear. We're constantly in fear of what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next? That's why insurance company flourish. The entire reason for the existence of insurance companies is because of our insecurities, because of our fear. But what else happens? One is fear. What else is there? Yes, we forget Krishna. That's what happens as a result of forgetting Krishna, being in this cycle of birth, death, disease. We're never happy, right? We are constantly. It's not just happy. We're not even in this. We are not even in this neutral state of not being happy. We are in this negative state of being miserable, right? This is the trident of Durga. You've seen this trident of Durga. This Durga is the external energy of the Lord, and she always carries a trident. You know what the trident signifies? There are three, sharp ends to the trident, right? These are three different kinds of miseries that we constantly experience because we are born. Because of birth, we have to undergo these three different kinds of miseries. Do you know what these three kinds of miseries are? You might want to, people are listening, no? Yeah.
Miseries inflicted by higher beings like the demigods, like weather and things like that.
Yeah.
Heat, cold.
Yeah.
Miseries inflicted by other entities like mosquitoes, like other people on the street and stuff like that. And the miseries inflicted by your own self.
Our own self. Think about it. You cannot even escape the miseries that you're going to inflict upon yourself. That's the problem. When you get a body, you have to experience misery. That's why it's not enough to inquire just about just for sense gratification. It's a very problematic situation that we are in. Therefore, we have to inquire about Krishna consciousness, and this is where it starts about sadhana bhakti. The rest of the purport talks about the process on how we can actually perform this inquiry, and after performing this inquiry, we actually act. You see, knowledge is not just enough. It's a necessary criteria, but it's not, what do you call, necessary but not sufficient? Right? Necessary but not sufficient. Knowledge is necessary, but is just knowledge enough? No. What does it mean to actually know? What does Prabhupada say, To know means to act. That is real knowledge. Very nice. To know means to act. If you really know something, you will actually act on it. That's basically what it is. And what's the action that we are trying to perform? Bhakti, devotional service. Right? That is basically in any circumstance that you are in. right? You might ask, oh, is bhakti specific to a certain circumstance that I am in my life? But what does the verse say? In all circumstances. You can perform bhakti in all circumstances. Any example of different circumstances in which you think devotees have performed bhakti in? I'll give you an example to start with. You can perform bhakti in the womb. Do you know? How many of you agree with me that you can perform devotional service in? Yeah. Example? Womb means when you're in the stomach of your belly of your mom, right? Yeah, Narada Muni. No. What were you saying? No. What we're saying? No. Nanda Braj Prabhu, you were saying? Yudhishthir? Prahlad Maharaj to Narada Muni. Yeah, that's basically it. Maharaj Parikshit, amazing example. Parikshit Maharaj was also able to see Krishna directly in the womb. What are the circumstances that you might have in your life? When you're dying, on your deathbed. You've never done bhakti. Can you do bhakti in your deathbed? How? What's the example? Ajamal. He was basically not doing any. He was doing the most abominable things in his life you could think of. And yet, he was able to practice bhakti in his deathbed. There is also another example of a person who is about to die. Who's this? Parikshit Maharaj. Again, it's amazing how many categories he can satisfy. What other categories do we have? Can you practice bhakti when you're poor? Who is the example of it? Sudama. Can you practice bhakti when you're rich? Who is the example? Maharaj Ambarish. Yudhishthir Maharaj, right? Practically, can you practice Bali Maharaj? He had everything in the world. He ruled the 3 worlds. Can you practice bhakti when you're going through so many trials and tribulations in your life? In fact, that's when you really need to practice bhakti. And what's the example for it? Queen Kunti. In fact, or Prahlad. Yeah, Prahlad was really drastic. His father really tried to kill him in so many different ways. Mother Kunti was also similar. She was not being, her children were being assassinated. At least they were trying to assassinate her children. Mother Kunti. And yet, what does she ask? What does Kunti? Bring it on. How many of you will ask it? Okay, Krishna, you've given me some mercenaries. Can you bring me more? Don't ask for it. It's naturally going to come to you in this material world, just like how we spoke. You don't need to ask for it. But at least at the time of miseries, you think about him. Can you worship Krishna when you're happy? Yeah, when you don't have miseries. You definitely need to do that. Most of us try to somehow include Krishna in it, but be genuinely conscious even when you're happy to include Krishna. Yeah, it's going to disappear. This is Krishna saying, Matras parshas sukaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkada, right? Agama paino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. That it's just going to disappear. This is like the seasons, no? The summer comes and the winter comes and again the summer would come. But yet, we stay steady in all those situations because we're practicing bhakti. Okay, in all situations, in all circumstances, in all space and time. Can you practice bhakti? Yeah. This bhakti is not specific to a specific region. That's what it means, right? It's not that just people in India can practice bhakti or people in America can practice bhakti. Bhakti is universal. It can be practiced by everybody from cradle to the grave. Just as we saw, right? From even before the cradle, from womb to the grave, you can practice bhakti. And anybody can practice bhakti, right? There is no restriction on who can practice devotional service. Man, woman, white, black, any category of people, any race, any gender, rich, poor, however you look, nothing is... this is the point I wanted to make. Animals. But that's good. That's exactly the train of thought that Prabhupada takes in his purport. And do you think, is it only the human beings who can practice bhakti? Yeah? What are the instances where animals have practiced bhakti? Jarikanda forest, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going through this forest where there were really wild animals. And Mahaprabhu made them dance together. You know, the deer and the tiger were hugging and kissing each other. Where does this happen? The deer usually runs away from the tiger. But what's another example? Ramayana. What's specific in Ramayana? The Vanaras, right? The monkeys were performing bhakti. The squirrels and the ants were taking a little bit of sand that they could, and they. Oh, not so much. Kalia was not performing. He really wanted to kill Krishna, you know. The wives of the Kalia, wives of the Nagapatnis, it says. It's Jaya Jaya Nagapatni, we say, no? Naga Kanyagan. You know this song, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna? That it's glorifying the wives of the wives of Kalia. They perform bhakti. You know this this elephant Gajendra. You know, he was really in trouble. This crocodile had caught his leg, and he was trying to escape for how many years? You know, 1,000 years. 1,000 years he was trying to get out of the clutch of the crocodile, and then at some point he surrendered to the Lord, and then he got delivered. And then from Ramayana, another example I can think is Jatayu. You know, it's this huge eagle, I don't know, vulture? Probably some huge bird that was trying to stop Ravan when he was kidnapping Mother Sita. And Lord Ramachandra personally performed the final rites of the bird. For most men, it doesn't happen properly. So Lord Ramachandra did this for Jatayu, right? So there is no restriction. Anybody can perform bhakti, and in all circumstances we can perform bhakti, in all spaces. It's not just this planet, it's not just this country. Prabhupada says in all planetary systems, in all universes you can perform bhakti. It's universal. It doesn't have any bounds, because bhakti is not bound by this material world, it's transcendental. And what is the way in which we perform bhakti? What is the way in which we perform bhakti? What is our abhideya? The process of bhakti. What's the process? No? With love. But what do we do with love and devotion? What is the actual action that we perform? Offer to Krishna. This is something that Prabhupada says. Yat karoshi yadashnashi yad juhosi dadasyat yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Offer everything that we're doing to Krishna. Any activity that we perform, we should offer to Krishna. But for the age that we live in, what is the primary method of practice? This is the easy one. You know, this was like if you had said this. This is the answer that everybody says. Chanting. Chanting the holy names of the Lord, right? Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalau nastyeva, 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 gatiranyata, gatir. There is no other way. Is there any other way? There is no other way. Is there any other way? No, there is no other way. Thrice. Right? But the only way is what? Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam. Kevalam means only. Chanting the holy names of the Lord. Chant with love and devotion. And we can do it in all places, all times, and all circumstances. Also, right? Not just the practice of bhakti can be performed anywhere by anybody. There is no restriction. Nobody can say you should not practice bhakti because it is our birthright. As spirit souls, it is our birthright to perform bhakti. However abominable our condition might be, nobody can stop us from performing bhakti. And people can stop us from doing so many different things, right? There are different angas of bhakti that you might need qualification for, right? To perform devotional service, which is archanam, right? There are 9 kinds of devotional service. You need to qualify yourself. But the first 2 items of bhakti, anybody can do. You know what's the first 2 steps of bhakti are? Hearing and chanting. Nobody can stop us. Okay. On that awesome positive note, I think we should stop here. I know. That's why I stopped. That's also bhakti, taking Krishna Prasad. So anyway, please read through the translations. And yeah, we can sit together. But I want to just 1 more minute. I'm not going to stop you from bhakti. So basically, this ends the question, answers to the questions that Lord Brahma inquired from Krishna, from Lord Vishnu, right? And then what did Brahma do? What was he supposed to do in the beginning? Yeah, and then he started his creation. And the first question that he asked, who asked Brahma this question from which all of this came? Yeah, Narada Muni thought Brahma was the supreme. And yet he had some doubts that, oh, Brahma, you have so many powers, you create so much, but I still think there's somebody who is higher than you. And this is the right way to look at the spiritual master also. This is one thing. The spiritual master is as good as Krishna, but he is not Krishna. That's demonstrated by Brahmaji, right? Although somebody came to Brahma with this view that you're the supreme, then he said, no, this is not me. There is somebody who's higher than me, I'm just recreating. And then Brahma goes to recreate, and then he tells what Krishna spoke in these 4 verses to whom? Brahma says this to whom? Narada. And Narada spoke this to? No, Narada didn't. Vyasadeva. And then Vyasadeva spoke this to? Shukadev. And then Shukadev spoke this to? Parikshit. That's where we are in. Right? That completes the loop. And that's where the chapter ends. And then there is more inquiry on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Alright. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatarubhyasya, Kripa sindhubhya evacha, Patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.